BC, wrote that all men formerly spoke the same language. Then some undertook to erect a large and lofty tower so that they might climb up to heaven. But the chief god confounded their design by sending a whirlwind. Each tribe was given a different language. The city where it happened was Babylon. There is little doubt by now that the biblical tales, as well as the reports of the Greek historians of 2,000 years ago, and of their predecessor Berosus, all stem from earlier Sumerian origins. Says the religion of the Babylonians reported reading on a fragmentary tablet in the British Museum the Babylonian version of the building of the Tower of Babel. In all instances, the attempt to reach the heavens and the ensuing confusion of tongues are basic elements of the version. There are other Sumerian texts that record the deliberate confusion of man's tongue by an irate god. Mankind, presumably, did not possess at that time the technology required for such an aerospace project. The guidance and collaboration of a knowledgeable god was essential. Did such a god defy the others to help mankind? A Sumerian seal depicts a confrontation between armed gods, apparently over the disputed construction by men of a stage tower. A Sumerian stele now on view in Paris, in the Louvre, may well depict the incident reported in the Book of Genesis. It was put up circa 2300 BC by Naram-Sin, king of Akkad, and scholars have assumed that it depicts the king victorious over his enemies. But the large central figure is that of a deity, and not of the human king, for the person is wearing a helmet adorned with horns, the identifying mark exclusive to the gods. Furthermore, this central figure does not appear to be the leader of the smaller-sized humans, but to be trampling upon them. These humans, in turn, do not seem to be engaged in any warlike activities, but to be marching toward and standing in adoration of the same large conical object on which the deity's attention is also focused. Armed with a bow and lance, the deity seems to view the object menacingly rather than with adoration. The conical object is shown reaching toward three celestial bodies. If its size, shape, and purpose indicate that it was a Shem, then the scene depicted an angry and fully armed god trampling upon people celebrating the raising of a Shem. Both the Mesopotamia texts and the biblical account impart the same moral: the flying machines were meant for the gods, and not for mankind. Men assert both Mesopotamian and biblical texts could ascend to the heavenly abode only upon the express wish of the gods. And there inly more tales of ascents to the heavens, and even of space flights. The Old Testament records the ascent to the heavens of several mortal beings. The first was Enoch, a pre-diluvial patriarch whom God befriended and who walked with the Lord. He was the seventh patriarch in the line of Adam, and the great-grandfather of Noah, hero of the deluge. The 5th chapter of the Book of Genesis lists the genealogies of all these patriarchs, and the ages at which they died, except for Enoch, who was gone, for the Lord had taken him. By implication and tradition, it was heavenward, to escape mortality on earth, that God took Enoch. The other mortal was the prophet Elijah, who was lifted off earth, and taken heavenward in a whirlwind. A little-known reference to a third mortal who visited the divine abode and was endowed there with great wisdom is provided in the Old Testament, and it concerns the ruler of Tyre, a Phoenician center on the eastern Mediterranean coast. We read in chapter 28 of the book of Ezekiel that the Lord commanded the prophet to remind the king how perfect and wise he was, and able by the deity to visit with the gods. Thou art molded by a plan, full of wisdom, perfect in beauty. Thou hast been in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone was thy thicket. Thou art an anointed cherub, protected, and I have placed thee in the sacred mountain. As a god wouldst thou, moving within the fiery stones, predicting that the ruler of Tyre should die a death of the uncircumcised by the hand of strangers, even if he called out to them, I am a deity. The Lord then told Ezekiel the reason after the king was taken to the divine abode and given access to all wisdom and riches. His heart grew haughty, he misused his wisdom, and he defiled the temples. Because thine heart is haughty, saying, A god am I, in the abode of the deity I sat, in the midst of the waters, though thou art a man, not to God, thou set thy heart, as that of a deity. The Sumerian texts also speak of several men who were privileged to ascend to the heavens. One was Adap, the model man created by Yah. To him he had given wisdom, eternal life he had not given him. As the years went by, Ea decided to overtake his mortal end, by providing him with a shem with which he was to reach the heavenly abode of Anu, there to partake of the bread of life, and the water of life. When Adap arrived at Anu's celestial abode, Anu demanded to know who had provided Adap with a shem with which to reach the heavenly location. There are several important clues to be found in both the biblical and the Mesopotamia. Tales of the rare ascents of mortals to the abode of the gods. Adapa, too, like the king of Tyre, was made of a perfect mold. All had to reach and employ a shem fiery stone to reach the celestial Eden. Some had gone up and returned to earth, others, like the Mesopotamian hero of the deluge, stayed there to enjoy the company of the gods. It was to find this Mesopotamian Noah and obtain from him the secret of the tree of life that the Sumerian Gilgamesh set out. The futile search by mortal man for the tree of life is the subject of one of the longest, most powerful epic texts bequeathed to human culture by the Sumerian civilization. Named by modern scholars the Epic of Gilgamesh, the moving tale concerns the ruler of Uruk, who was born to a mortal father and a divine mother. As a result, Gilgamesh was considered to be 2/3 of him god, 1/3 of him human, a circumstance that prompted him to seek escape from the death that was the fate of mortals. Tradition had informed him that one of his forefathers, Utnapishtim, the hero of the deluge, had escaped death, having been taken to the heavenly abode together with his spouse. Gilgamesh therefore decided to reach that place and obtain from his ancestor the secret of eternal life. What prompted him to go was what he took to be an invitation from Anu. The verse is read like a description of the sighting of the falling back to earth of a spent rocket. Gilgamesh described it thus to his mother, the goddess Enai, and son, my mother, during the night I felt joyful, and I walked about among my nobles. The stars assembled in the heavens. The handiwork of Anu descended toward me. I sought to lift it, it was too heavy. I sought to move it I could not. The people of Uruk gathered about it, while the nobles kissed its legs. As I set my foot, they gave me support. I raised it. I brought it to thee. The interpretation of the incident by Gilgamesh's mother is mutilated in the text, and is thus unclear. But obviously Gilgamesh was encouraged by the sighting of the falling object, the handiwork of Anu, to embark on his adventure. In the introduction to the epic, the ancient reporter called Gilgamesh the Wise One, he who has experienced everything, secret things he has seen, what is hidden to man he knows. He even brought tidings of the time before the deluge. He also took the distant journey, wearisome and under difficulties. He returned and engraved all his toil upon a stone pillar. The distant journey Gilgamesh undertook was, of course, his journey to the abode of the gods. He was accompanied by his comrade Enkidu. Their target was the land of Tilman, for there Gilgamesh could raise a shem for himself. The current translations employ the expected name, where the Sumerian Mu or the Akkadian Shumu appear in the ancient text. We shall, however, employ Shem instead, so that the term's true meaning, a skyborne vehicle, will come through the ruler Gilgamesh toward the land of Tilman, set his mind. He says to his companion Enkidu, O Enkidu, I would enter the land, set up my Shem. In the places where the Shems were raised up I would raise my Shem. Unable to dissuade him, both the elders of Uruk and the gods, whom Gilgamesh consulted, advised him to first obtain the consent and assistance of Utu/Shamash. If thou wouldst enter the land, inform Utu, they cautioned him. The land, it is in Utu's charge, they stressed and re-stressed to him. Thus forewarned and advised, Gilgamesh appealed to Utu for permission. Let me enter the land, let me set up my Shem. In the places where the Shems are raised up, let me raise my Shem. Bring me to the landing place and establish over me thy protection. An unfortunate break in the tablet leaves us ignorant regarding the location of the landing place. But, wherever it was, Gilgamesh and his companion finally reached its outskirts. It was a restricted zone, protected by awesome guards. Weary and sleepy, the two friends decided to rest overnight before continuing. No sooner had sleep overcome them than something shook them up and awoke them. Didst thou arouse me? Gilgamesh asked his comrade. Am I awake? He wondered, for he was witnessing unusual sights, so awesome that he